the other people. So we got 2 tours right with us coming in. Anyway, this was the site of a temple to Venus. And it was chosen because it's on a high point. The audio guide says it was beautiful with columns and porticos and statues, and they put spare no expense. But there's just parts of it left now. Here's one of the columns that used to surround the whole thing. Must have been quite impressive. The guy was saying this is the original plaster wall from about 2,500, 2,000 years ago. Here's a city itself. So people live here. Little avenues, little streets with temples.
The house
Here's a little niche, probably for some altar or something. This is all buried, you know. So it was preserved pretty amazingly. There's an entrance to a little space. These would be houses. And here. This is the Temple of Apollo. See, the city was here before the Romans came. And the Romans came and conquered it. And then the Romans built their own things. Many times on top of it. Where? Oh, okay. 5. It started to rain. It's a giant's place. Most of it was built before Christ. These are administration offices. Now all of this was covered with marble slabs. none of the marble slabs remain. And there were statues on all these pedestals. You could see that they were made of brick and mortar, and then they covered them with marble. We're all huddled in here. It's pouring out. We're taking advantage of the arch. Of course, we didn't bring our umbrellas today. Well, it stopped raining for a bit. This is the forum here, where everything happened. And these are still some of the original stones. So this is the main forum here, and then alongside they had all the markets. They had the fish market, the meat market, the vegetable markets. And the colonnades were double height, some of them. You could see the two columns. So they had a roof over it, and then they had a second story. That's the Temple of Jupiter way on the end. You could see the stairs going up to the temple, and that's Mount Vesuvius in clouds. So this must have been pretty spectacular in its day, you know. Then we have the stray dogs. There's a warning, beware the stray dogs. It's a little bear. Quite a sight, it must have been. This is a big city. This is some of the original decoration. Can't see it so well. This whole thing was covered with marble. Most of it's gone. They found these pieces. These niches had the statue of the ruling families. Here's an original plaque. This writing is, you know, over 2,000 years old. So all these important buildings, these were all covered in marble. So it must have been quite a sight. Quite a sight. This is a John here. Bathroom. Where you would go up the stairs. Like this is a public bathroom. Then you'd pee and they'd have an urn. They collect the urn and then use the urine for degreasing animal hides and degreasing cloth. So I didn't realize urine was a degreaser. This area here after the pee room right there and after that entrance, this is where all the wool people came. So they had a market, and all the wool people would come here and sell their wool, and who knows, trade sheep or whatever. But each one of these buildings, they had halls off the forum, the main forum, which were dedicated to a certain product. This happened to be the wool section. Oh, and there's a statue back there. I want to come back and take a look at that statue. This place is immense. And they're not finished excavating it. They've been doing it for a couple hundred years. Supposedly this person had something to do with wool, whatever it was, either the goddess or one of the nobles' wives or whatever. Oh, here comes some sunshine.
We have 10 and 11.
Alright.
Right
Looks
here.
like the forum is filling up, just like in the ancient times.
This is number 9.
Okay, we'll play 9. We have a tour guide that we're playing. There's a temple.
And there's their altar.
This is the main temple of Jupiter here. You can see how high the columns are going up. This was a temple that stood on that platform right here. Had columns, and this remains. This had the statue of an emperor. I don't know if you can see. You can't see it, but on the relief on the bottom, it shows a bull being led to sacrifice. Probably at this temple. Here's the temple of Jupiter. Stairs leading up. This is all marble on top, and then inside there's another building on top of this. And then that was the temple inside where they had a big statue. You see little bits of marble all along here. That's the original marble that's on it. All this survived.
Ouais, je sais, mais le soleil.
Here's the picture we've all seen.
What was the number that you defined?
11, you said.
No, at the end of 11.
Oh, I
It
didn't
tells
see
you
it.
more
It
about
tells you
these.
more. I don't know. I'll have to play it again. But this is... Yeah, we have to play the description of it.
These are cats.
These are the original frescoes up here. That were on the wall. You could see the plaster. The plaster is really thick on this. So they had all these walls built, and then they plastered them off a really thick plaster, and then they painted the plaster.
Which decorated the courtyard interior. Architecture of fantastic design separates panels containing isolated figures from panels with mythological scenes. Above, pictures of bread and fish remind us of the building's purpose. Inside are two showcases, the plaster casts of two people who died during the eruption, 79 AD. If you would like to know more about
The way they found these bodies is interesting. I mean, they weren't bodies. They were digging through the ruins, and one of the workers said they saw bones. So the director had all the work stopped, and they found like a cavity, 4 cavities. So instead of keep digging and emptying the cavity, the director had a stroke of genius. He filled the whole cavity with plaster. So then, once the plaster dried, they chipped away the outer part, and it turned out it was the shape of a body. What had happened, it was covered with ash, and then the ash hardened, and the bodies then decayed. So it left a void with the bones on the bottom, and so there was like an empty space, and then they poured the plaster in, 2 centuries later, and there it is. And you can see the skull here, because the skull didn't deteriorate, so the plaster didn't go there. It stuck to the skull, but the face and everything was in the cast. It's pretty incredible. This town, it's got regular streets with houses off the streets and shops. I mean, you're talking 2,000 years ago, and it's got a civilized city here. And the city was here before the Romans, so it was about 2,500 years ago. It's got just all these buildings and these streets. It's you could live here today if you rebuilt. These are the baths, the men's bath. There was a men's bath and a women's bath. This is the changing room where they would come in here. Then they would hang their clothes on wooden pedestals, which now are holes in the wall. Then they would sit on these benches here and wait their turn to get into the bath. This is the cold bath, where they come in and take a cold bath. And this is all painted, decorated. You can see some of the decorations here. This is all tiled. So after the cold bath, you come into the warm room. And in these little niches were oils and what have you, lotions and oils. So this is where you would go after your cold bath to warm up, because they had a wood fire going here. And you would warm up before your hot bath. This is all decorated, painted. See?
It's a public bathhouse, but we know that many people, they got their own stuff in their houses. Like there's more than this
Okay, here's your hot bath. This is the hot bath.
They had heating. They had like fires. The walls are hollow.
Oh, the
And
walls.
hot air would go through the wall.
Oh, wow. The walls are hollow. The hot air would go through the walls and heat the room. It's kind of like a sauna, dry heat.
You can hear 104 more about it.
Yeah, look at this. Walls are hollow. Hot air coming through. The whole room is heated. Hot air, heat. Oh, and then you have the hot air come through here too. It's a grate. So it's in the walls.
Regions 10.
Here's an street intersection. Oh, okay. You got these major streets of the city. It's a big city. It's all surrounded by a wall. 6'9". All these arches were dedicated to the emperor and his family. Whoever was the emperor, they had his statue. Oh, this is someone's house here. Yeah, you can't see it in this, but there's a big atrium, and then it's a big room, and then on the other side of it you have a fountain right there. This is a public fountain. So this is where they will get their water. And the water flows right into the street. Comes out of there and flows into the street. And the streets are like domed, so the water would be flowing along the side. But a lot of times the streets are full with water, and those stepping stones would allow people to cross the street without getting their feet wet. The sidewalks are raised. Here's a side street. Another side street. The now are side streets. This is the main street with the arches with the emperor's statue on it. A lot of these buildings are being all restored. Eventually they'll have everything restored here. In terms of at least you should be allowed to go in it. Here's a little area. Probably had homes, more than one home in here. They're restoring. You can see all the pillars, courtyard. Fountain in the back. Okay, be right. These are all like big houses for the. This is where the influential people lived. Right on the main avenue. Columns in the house, pool, fountains. Here's another nice spot. The house of Antici Maximi. So this is where all the rich people lived. With the big houses off the main drag. With a nice view. Look at the floor here, mosaics. It's all painted. It's all decorated with paint. Here's the city walls. Surrounded the whole city. Once the Romans took over, they didn't need the walls anymore.
Look how pretty that is.
You can see some of the bits of marble that decorated the outer walls. They're still here. Most of the marble has fallen off. Here's the sign of the name of the people that lived here. The house. The house of whoever's living here. Yeah, this is the house of Hieronymus Communis. And he kind of dedicated to the god Apollo, he dedicated the house to. This is the house of Antici Maximi. The houses must have been gorgeous. With the pillars, there's always a fountain. When you walk in, there's a fountain and a pool. Right there, and then in the back they have a flowing fountain. I mean, these are, and of course it's all covered with plaster and fresco paintings. Must have been gorgeous. It's amazing you could still see some of the touches of the paints. And the plaster covering the stone is thick. It's almost like a cement. You know, this rock is like volcanic.
See, that's kind of interesting. You can see the stone.
Yeah.
You can see how the walls look. They're not all raw like this. The plastic.
Here's the house of M. Astellini. Again with the pool, and as you walk in the gardens and the columns. Probably a lot of rich merchants. A lot of the political figures were probably rich merchants. They elected city councils every year. And they were elected of citizens of high standing. So you had to be wealthy before you even thought about politics. This is another bath, and this is the oldest bath in Pompeii, and they used it as a athletic court too, where you would do your wrestling and other athletics. And this is all decorated, stucco painted. This is a big pool area right here. Then after your workout, you would go to the bath, go into the pool, and go into the bath, similar to the last ones. We had the cold bath, the heated room, hot bath, etc., etc. This place was about 200 BC. More bodies. These are the warm room painted frescoes. They had a floor that was heated by hot air. There's a floor, and underneath the hot air would flow. There's some more blocks that you could walk across as the water flows underneath. More streets full of people. Now you're getting into your smaller homes, shops. 2 floors, you could see where the beams were. Probably apartments. Shops over here. 1 room. We're in the theater. This is the backstage of the theater. Here's the stage. And there's the audience. Look at the statue.
The theater shows original Greek age building for its shape. In the middle,
this is a courtyard. That was the small theater. The big theater is right there. We'll go over the big theater in a minute. But in between the 2 theaters, there's like a courtyard where people can come out and walk about. You know, in between intermissions or after or before the show. Discuss the play, discuss the performance. Here's the big theater. So this was for grand performances.
On va continuer notre promenade. Là, on va rentrer dans le côté vide.
Theater in the round, almost. Each seat's numbered. This is the preferred section down here. The what? Yeah, they use it. They. Oh. Okay, Phil. Each one of these is numbered, so they use it. These. No, they didn't have any gladiators fighting wild beasts in here.
So
We got quite a show going on ourselves, watching these people. So, it's quite a developed city.
Обе ноги в одну сторону. Под себя. Под себя. Вот так?
We've escaped the mob. Heading towards the exit. Yeah, that's the outside wall. These trees are gorgeous the way they've been trimmed. It's a very nice walk. Yeah, night must be really nice. Smell of flowers and the pine.
It must be very nice when there's an event at the theater like that.
Oh yeah. Quite a city. Had everything. The arts, the plumbing, water system, all the streets laid out, stores, markets, everything you need for civilization. Yeah, exercise, the baths. Quite amazing. And then the barbarians came from the north. Wiped it all out. Of course, the volcano got Pompeii. That's why we can see it today. It was all buried. And then people couldn't carry away the bricks, so it's still there. This is the outside walls here.
Quite something.
Yep. Wow, that is a project. To excavate all this, and what a project. It's going on since the 1700s.